Gemara. Ve'elu menachos nikmotzos v'shirei lakohanim. These are the menachos that have a normal kmitza that's placed on the mizbeach, and then the leftovers get eaten by the kohanim. Zok the Gemara. The minchas nedava, as listed in the Torah, which are minchas asailes, v'amachvas, v'amarcheshes, v'hachalois, barakikin. So minchas asailes is made out of raw flour. Machvas and marcheshes are pan fried. Machvas is a flat pan, has a softer consistency. Marcheshes, it has a harder consistency. Marcheshes is a deeper pan that'll have a softer consistency. V'achalitz v'harkikin, which are the two types of breads you could bring for a minchas mafetaner. Minchas oivdei kachavim, if a guy brings a mincha, uminchas noshim, or if a woman brings a mincha, uminchas ha'omer, which we bring on Pesach, a korbon tzibor, uminchas choite, which is part of the oil of yored system, uminchas kanois, which is the mincha brought by a soita. All of these, there's a kmitza taken, that's their makriv on the mizbeach, the remainder of which is given to the kohanim. Like Shimon Omer, minchas choite shel kohanim, the minchas choite of a kohanim, so a kohen who was bringing an oil of yored of dalei dalos, nikmetzes, they will be a kmitza done, even though normally the mincha kohen is kol tia, and there's no kmitza done by a minchas choite. There is a kmitza done. However, the kohen mitz karv la'atzmai, the shirayim kravin la'atzman. The kmitza is placed on the mizbeach as well as the shirayim, and nothing is given to the kohen. Whenever it's listing off these menachos, there's 10 menachos here. That was one pshat of Rashi. In other words, chalash or kikin are two separate ones, but there's no additional one, which would be a combination of chalash and rikikin. Or eshet means there's 10 chalash or 10 rikikin. Never is there a minchas mafetaner that can be split between 5 rikikin and 5 chalash. Reb Shimon argues on that, so Reb Papa is saying our Mishnah seems to take on the shita of the Tanakama. Lafukim Reb Shimon, Ma'ikamash Malon, Lafukim Reb Shimon, Damar Mechzer Chalash u'Mechzer Kikin, Yave you could bring for a minchas mafetaner, Kamash Malon, Deloy. Reb Papa is telling us not so. V'shirei lakohanim. Minalon, how do we know that the shirayim goes to the kohanim? Frank the Gemara, what type of question is that? The ksiva, the menachos, where the Torah specifically says that it's given to the kohanim, it's written over there. Udeloi ksiva, and for those menachos that it doesn't say beferish in the Torah that the shirayim goes to the kohanim, ksiva, there's another pasuk that says v'zois Torah mincha hakrev oisa b'nei aharon v'haniser shemimenu yoichlu Aaron uvanov. So it's referring to all of the menachos of Nadava that the Torah says about all of them that they are eaten by the Kohanim. Zokt Gemara, you're right about that. But that's ba'achitun like kamabayla. Those menachos of Nadava mentioned in the Parashat Vayikra, those are all menachos that are brought with chitin. And there you're right. You have psukim for it. But kikam baylan, our shaila is ba'sa'arin. Now, there's two types of menachos that are ba'sayrin. One is the minchas ha'omer, and the second one is the minchas soita, otherwise known as the minchas kanois. It's those two menachos that we're seeking a makar that the kohen gets the shirayim. Zok Gemara, I don't understand why that's unknown to you. Ba'sayrin nami midinik metzes. We know there's a kmitza done because the Torah says you have to do a kmitza. So by definition, whenever there's a kmitza, shirei la kayanim, the shirayim goes to the kayanim. That's exactly what the kmitza is for, to separate the part that you're putting on the mizbeach from the part that's going to the kayanim. Zok to Gemara, you're right. According to the Rabbanan, whenever there's a kmitza, it automatically means that the shirayim go to the kayanim. Kikam abaylan aliba Reb Shimon in our Mishnah, who said you could make a kmitza and you could still burn the shirayim on the mizbeach. The Yomer Yikal kmitza, the mikmitza, v'loy besakla, which is the minchas chayta of kayanim. So according to Reb Shimon, by a mincha of barley, how do you know that the kmitza is eaten that the shirayim is eaten by the kahanim, maybe it should also be placed on the mizbeach. The Tanan our Mishnah, Reb Shimon Omer, Minchas Chodesh Kahanim Nikmetzes, but a Kaimitz Karv La'atzmai, Vashirayim Kraven Ba'atzman. So Ibizoi, Minalon, how do we know according to Reb Shimon that a mincha brought from Sa'orin, the shirayim goes to the kahanim? Omer Chizkiah, the Omer Kra, V'chol mincha belula b'shemen v'chareva l'chol b'nei aharon tihiyeh. So the pasuk is telling us that a mincha belula b'shemen v'chareva, it's speaking about chitin, the shirayim goes to the kahanim. Now, I don't need a pasuk to tell me that a mincha belula of chitin means a mincha that contains oil of chitin. The shirayim goes to the kohen. It already says it. So Tanei Inyan will apply to Blula Sol Sa'irin, which would be the Mincha Sa'imer. Because we have a pasuk for all chitin, Tanei Inyan, let's apply this limud l'charev shel Sa'irin to a Minchas Kanois. Beautiful. There's an interesting question you might ask. The Torah decided to tell us explicitly by all of the Minchas Chitin that the Shirayim goes to the Kahanim. Yet the Torah decided only to be meramis through a limud that the Minchas Sa'irin goes to the Kahanim. What would be the reason for that? So we're taking a deeper dive than even the Gemara. Why would the Torah decide to tell you beramiza that the Minchas Sa'irin goes to the Kahanim? So the Meshech Chochmah says that the Torah is so concerned and sensitive with the covet of people more than the Torah is sensitive with the covet of the Torah. Barley is Michael Behema. The Torah doesn't want to say clearly, oh, give the Michael Behema to the Kohen. It's somewhat insulting to the Kohen. But the Torah does say beferish, be makriv the Kohen of the Serim on the Mizbeach. Because the Torah has a higher regard for the respect and honor of a person, and the Torah doesn't even want to say it beferish. Now we learned that the idea of Torah Shabbat Peh, we learned once that although Moshe Rabbeinu knew all the halachas that Rabbi Akiva taught, because it was taught him halacha l'Moshe Sinai, every derabanan, every limud from every pasuk, all those halachas he knew. So what did Rabbi Akiva add? So we learned that what Rabbi Akiva added was he was able to find the makar in the Torah itself, in the words of the Torah itself, for the halachas. So although there was not one halacha that Rabbi Akiva knew that Moshe didn't, Adarabba, Moshe knew all the halachas which Rabbi Akiva learned from Moshe, of course passed down from generation to generation. What Rabbi Akiva brought to the table that Moshe did not have was how to find that halacha, where is it merubas in the Torah. And Rabbi Akiva didn't find every single remes. The Gemara, the Mishnah is the Gemara, and Ata Yom Hazeh, every person has his carved out chelik in Torah where he could show where a halacha that we have is shown in the Torah. So this is the Meshech Chochmah's added specialty. He always digs deeper into understanding why the Torah did things in a certain way. So here we have a little laser focused snapshot of this particular issue, that the Meshech Chochmah realized that the reasoning behind the Torah expressing certain halachas explicitly and certain baramiza is to respect the Kohanim.
He didn't know the Tagim, the Moshe Rabbeinu. This is Rabbi Akiva Darshan the Tagim. Do you remember that?
But he knew all the halachas. All the halachas of what we need, he knew. He might not have known, and it was taught him in Sinai, but he might not have known where that rumors in the actual psukim. Or the Tagim.
I think Pshat in that Chazal is he wasn't taught it yet at that point.
Moshe.
Yes.
So at what point was he taught it?
I don't know exactly. He was in Shemaim, 120 days?
So there's a limit to how much you could get of it.
Imagine going to yeshiva for 120 days. But also the period when the Mishkan was built, from the time from Yom Kippur until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, he sat in the Oyel Mayid, that other Oyel Mayid, the first Oyel Mayid, there's two of them, and he was being taught the Torah there as well.
And our yeshiva bachim need years and years in the oil moed.
Yeah, right.
Did I just say that? Talk to Gemara weiter. Okay, so that's what we have. So you're telling me that this pasuk of the Chol Minchas Belula Bashemen V'Chareva L'Chol B'nei Aratia is to teach us that Sa'orin, a mincha of Sa'orin, the Shiraim is given to the Kohen. We needed to teach us a different lesson. How do you know that a Kohen could not wake up one day and say, you know what, I am not in the mood of protein today, so I'm going to give you all of my meat that I get and give me your minchas. Can't do that. You can't barter that way. You don't barter with karbonis. Talmud loymar b'chol mincha asher teyafa b'tanur l'chol b'nei aharantia. L'chol b'nei aharantia ish ke'echov. No switching around. Everybody gets an equal part. Now the Mefarshim tell us, of course, a kohen's allowed to share his food with anybody. We know a cotton does not get a chelik of the shirayim, but of course the kohen who gets it can share it with the cotton. So this means we can't barter our chelik that we're going to get. We all have to take our chelik. Then once we have our chelik, yes, we could share some of our food with another kohen and vice versa. Maybe it just means that if you're getting meat and I'm getting, if there's meat and there's a minchas, I can say, take my meat and I'll take your mincha. Because the mincha is not next in line. It doesn't have a connection with a meat korbon because it's not next in line to the zavach, right? It's next in line to an oif. So therefore, since they're separated somewhat, that's why you can't barter the two. But maybe maybe I can say you can have my bird and I'll take your mincha. Talmud loymar v'chol nase b'marcheshes l'chol b'nei aharantia. That's an extra limud to say it even applies to selecting or bartering a mincha with an oif. Lemaisa, birds are live animals that are being killed, or they have blood in them. And these are just mezonisin, so maybe that's why you can't barter. But what if I say, I'm in the mood of bird today, I'll give you my beef, and vice versa. Talmud loymar v'yal makvas l'chol b'nei aharantia. The bird is slaughtered with the nail, the thumb of the kohen. But the zevach is shechted with a chalaf. What if I want to give you my marcheshes and I'll take your machvas? Talmud loymer v'chol mincha belulav hashemen l'chol b'nei aharantia. Yochalo yichalku machvas connected marcheshes u'marcheshes connected machvas because it's a different type. Shazu ma'aseh koshin vizu ma'aseh rakin. Avo yichalku machvas connected machvas u'marcheshes connected marcheshes. I'll take your marcheshes and you'll take my marcheshes. Talmud loymar v'achareva l'chol b'nei aharantia. Yochalo yichalku b'kotche kotchim. Avo yichalku b'kotchim kalam. A mincha is considered kodesh kodeshim. Karbonis that are kodesh kachim, maybe that's where there's a prohibition of bartering. But we could barter kachim kalam. Talmud loymer ishka achiv ve'imal toida, which is definitely kachim kalam. Kishem shein chokim bekachim kachim kach ein chokim bekachim kalam. Okay, let's have a look. What does it mean to be choylek bekachim kalam? So let's have a look at Rashi, if I could find it. Rashi says, "Avol yicholku bekachim kalam, shelo yitnu chatos keneged osham, v'lo michas mafe keneged michas hasoilas, because those are all the kulam kachim kachimim. Avol yicholku bekachim kalim kagon shlomim keneged toita." Right? What about shlomim keneged shlomim? We just had it by the mincha. You can't even do marcheshes keneged marcheshes, right? So what about by kachim kalim? So Rashi here seems to say the only issue is shlomim kedegetoida, which is mashma that you could say I'll take your shlomim today and you take my shlomim tomorrow. But if you look at the Rashi Ksav Yad, Rashi says, "Ava yichalku shlomim keneged shlomim dolai gali kra elagabe mincha to kachakachami." It doesn't say shlomim keneged toida. It says shlomim keneged shlomim. V'yichalku shlomim keneged shlomim. So you see clearly that the Rashi on top seems to indicate that there's only a problem of shlomim keneged toida, but no problem of shlomim keneged shlomim. But Rashi in the Ksav Yad seems to say there's even a problem of shlomim keneged shlomim. Just an interesting difference to point out. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Ish, it says Ishkach, of Ish, we learn Ish Choylek va'afilu Balmum. Even the Balmum who can't do Avodah is entitled to a chelik of the proceeds of the korbon. Ve'ein cotton Choylek, but not a cotton va'afilu tam, even though the cotton has no mum. Zok to Gemara. So we used this pasuk to show us the halacha that you're not allowed to barter. So how can you use this pasuk as well to tell us that the kohen eats shirayim even from a minchas sa'irim? So Gemara, hahu mikol nafka. What do you learn from who? Rashi says brisa is mikol nafka. So the vichol is used for this brisa, and our limud is from we could learn out of mincha. So in other words, there's two limudim to be extracted from this pasuk. Let's see Rashi. Asya leminchas oimer v'kanois tishiraim nechalim meditani levi. Okay, mivachol, right? It's from the ribui of vav, but that's not true. That's a step. That's a step later. So let's see the Gemara weiter. We needed the call for the halacha that Rabbi Yosy bar Yehuda taught us, and he taught us halacha ba mafitaner. It has to be either 10 chalos or 10 rikikin, but that's also used. Elahum mivikal. There's an extra limit from the vav that we get an extra limit out of. So Rashi tells us, the Ksav Yad Rashi tells us, mivakoil, mi ribi devav, asya la minchas ha'omer knois di shirayim nechalim. So the main limud that leget our sugya, that the shirayim of these menachos are eaten, is from the vichol in the pasuk. So let's actually see the whole pasuk inside. It says vichol. So from this vav you learn our limud and our sugya. From kol you learn Rabbi Yosy bar Yehuda's limud, and then the rest of the pasuk is what our Gemara just darshaned, how you know that every type of korbon you cannot barter. Ravina says, I have another makar to the whole halacha that the kohen gets a chelik of the mincha soirim. Asya, he learns it midatani Levi, from a limud that Levi quoted for us in a brisa. The Tana Levi, l'chol karbonim, u'l'chol minchasam, u'l'chol chatasam, u'l'chol hashamam. So what do we learn from this pasuk? Let's read the pasuk inside. It says in Ois Gimel over here. No, it's not over here. Where is it? What letter is it? Maybe I didn't see it. Oh, it's no. Isn't this a Gimel? Gimel Zayia. No, Gimel is over here. Oh, so it's base. So I must have a printing mistake in my Gemara because there's a Gimel by me. Zayia lecha mikodesh hakatshim mina h kol karbonim lechol minchasam ulechol chatasam ulechol hashamam asher yachivu li kodesh kodeshim lecha hu ulevanecha. Talking about going to the kohen. So the chol karbonim lechol minchasam lechol chatasam lechol hashamam kol karbonim the rabbis loik shemen shel mitzayir. That's also given to the kohen. So kedai techamina, I would have thought that the kohen doesn't get it because it says mina eish, right? If we saw the pasuk, it says zeyi lachal b'kodesh hakadshim mina eish. The like shemen never goes near fire; it's what's smeared on the mitzvah. So kasher echmana, the Torah says mina eish kamash milan. We learn from kol karbonim the rabbis like shemens lechol minchasam the rabbis minchas ha'omer. uminchas knois, that shiraim goes to the kohen, which is exactly our subject. So it says v'ochlu oitam asher kupar bahem. The pasuk says that the achilas hakohen affects the kapara amar rachmana, but the minchas ha'omer and the minchas knois are not items of kapara. V'hai lahater ka'asya. The minchas ha'omer is just to be matir the new tvua. Ve'idich chanami levar ka'asya, and the minchas knois is to create clarity as to whether this lady was chayte or not. But neither of them are kapara. So you might think it does not go to the kohen. Kamash Shemlan, it goes to the kohen. L'chal chatasam, l'rabas chatas ha'oif, that the chatas ha'oif, the meat's eaten by the kohen, there's no meat that's placed on the mizbeach. So kedai de chamina nevelahi, I would have thought that an animal that gets malika and not a shchita is a nevela. So maybe the kohen wouldn't be able to eat it. Kamash Shemlan, he eats the chatas ha'oif. L'chal hashamam, l'rabas asham nazir v'asham mitzayra. Frek the Gemara, asham mitzayra b'hedik siva. It says before in the parasha by asham mitzayra that the kohen gets it. Kicha chatas ha'asham hula kohen. Ella, you're right. It's only the rabbis asham nazir ki asham mitzayra. And to tell us that just like the asham mitzayra, the kohen eats the meat, so too the asham nazir, the kohen will eat the meat. Why would I have thought otherwise? So kedai chamina lahachshir kaasi. The asham nazir is just to reset his naziris, but it's not being mechaper. Kamash malon. Asher yeshivu. Zok the Gemara is ze gezel hager. If someone steals from a ger and then he dies and there's no yorshim to whom to return the money gets given to the kayanim. Lachahi ulavanecha, shalachi ulavanecha. It's your mom and the gantin. It's not like Mishulchan Gavoy Kasi. It's actually your money. L'maynav kamina afilu l'kadosh bayis isha. Amar Zok Ravuna. Shalmei ha'ovdei krechavim. What if a guy sends a korbon shlomim? So he says, I'm going to send the shlomim. The halacha is oilais. They're all makriv. There's no meat going to the kahanim. There's no meat going to the bailim. It's treated as a korbon oila. As Rashi says, Shalmei of the Chavim should not love Shlomim. Oilai saying, Ve'ein nachal, they're not eaten. V'uadin, the minchas on chalul, and the same things with their mincha. Any carbon that a guy brings, it's fully placed on the mizbeach. Iba yisei mikra. I have a pasuk to support this. V'iba yisei misvara, or I have a svara to support this. Iba yisei svara, the svara that I could say supports this is quite simple. When a guy gives a carbon, he assumes it's all going to God. He doesn't understand the Jewish way that even when you give a carbon, Hashem wants you to partake, and the achila of the person also has an impact. To him, it all goes to Shemayim. So Mamela, his carbon all goes to Shemayim. Or I could bring a pasuk to say that. It says, "Asher yakrivu laHashem la'oila, called the mikrivi." Oila lahavi. Asher yakriv Hashem is from where we learned out that the carbon of a guy is a carbon. And it says la'oila, so we learned called the mikrivi, any carbon that a guy would bring, oila lahavi. So it doesn't mamish mean that it's a carbon oila, it just means that you're not going to give it to the kohen to eat, or buy them to eat, it's going to go on the mizbech. Most of Reb Chama Bar Guya, the Brisa seems to say otherwise. Ovid kechavim shisnadiv lahavi shlomim. Not only Yisrael, and they gave it to a Yid to bring for him. Yisrael oichlan, Noston l'koyin, hakoyin oichlan. So you see clearly the shlomim of a goy is eaten. Amarava hachik amar. It doesn't mean that he's giving his own carbon. It's almanashi yechaper bahen Yisrael. What happened was a Yid was mechayiv himself to bring a shlomim, and the guy said, "You know what? I'll pay for your carbon, but it's the Yid's carbon." Therefore, Yisrael oichlan. Almanashi is chaper ben koyin oichlan. But the guy giving his own carbon, that's kuloi oilam. Masav Shizbi. Elu menachos nikmatzos. The following menachos, you take a chmitz of them. V'shiyarei l'kayanim. That's our Mishnah. One of them is minchas oivdei kachavim. So you clearly see our Mishnah says not like what we just learned here, because our Mishnah says quite clearly that the minchas oivdei kachavim, the shirayim goes to the kohen. Rabbi Yochanan l'kasha, it's a machlokes tanoim. Ha Rabbi Yosy Glili, ha Rabbi Kiva. It's a machlokes between Rabbi Yosy Glili, who holds that the Shiraim goes to the Kohanim, and Rabbi Kiva is the one who says that the goy's korbon is all kolil. So it was Rav Huna. So Rav Huna said his halacha according to Rabbi Kiva. The time we learned, ish, ma tamad leimer, ish, l'rabbis esa oivdik echavim, shenoidrim nedarim unedavos ki Yisrael. So this is the same pasuk that we darshed earlier. Asher yakrivu Hashem la'oila, ein li ela oila. Shlomim minayin. How do we know that a goy can also donate a shlomim? Tamad leimer nidreim. Toida minayin. How do you know they can donate a toida? Tamad leimer nidvoisa. Minayin l'rabbis ha'oifos. How do you know that a goy can also donate oifos, yayin, levoina via eitzim? Tamad leimer nidreim l'chol nidreim. Nidvaisam l'chol nidvaisam. So if they could be makriv any type of korbon, imkein ma tamad loimer oila. Oila. Why did it say oila in the pasuk? So it says ish to include a goy. Asher yakrov karbanoi nidreim nidvaisam l'shem la'oila. Why did it finish off with the oila? To tell us oila prat l'naziris. A goy can't bring a korbon of a nazir. And the reason why a goy can't bring the korbon of a nazir is because a goy can't become a nazir. A goy does not have kabbalas naziris. So therefore, he couldn't possibly bring the korbon of a nazir. Divrei Rabbi Yosy Eglili. This is how Rabbi Yosy Eglili understands it. So Rabbi Yosy Eglili clearly darshans that the goy can bring any korbon, and from an oila you don't learn that all of his korbanos has the din of an oila. From the word oila you learn that the goy can't become a nazir. But Rabbi Kiva Aimer, Asher Yakrivu Hashem la'oila, ein li ela oila bilvad. The only korbon that he can bring is an oila. It doesn't mean that he can only bring an oila. It means all of his korbanos are treated like an oila. That's Rabbi Kiva Shita. So that period. So that is the Machlokes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yosy Eglili. So our Mishnah that says that the shiraim of the mincha of a goy is given to a kohen fits in beautifully according to Rabbi Yosy Eglili. Rav Huna, who said that every korban that a goy brings, the shiraim is burnt on the mizbeach, that's going according to Rabbi Kiva. Now we're going to go back to drill down on Rabbi Yosy Eglili Shita. Rabbi Yosy Eglili says, Ha'oila tells you that a goy cannot become a nazir. This is where you're learning from Ha'oila. We have another pasuk to tell us that a goy cannot become a nazir. Because it says in the parish of Naziris, Dabar Abudei Yisrael v'Amart Lahem, Ish kiyafli lindar nedar nazir lahazir, and we learn from there that Bnei Yisrael noidrin ve'ein ha'oivdei kechavim noidrin. It says Dabar el Bnei Yisrael v'Amart Lahem. This only applies to Bnei Yisrael. So I already know that a guy can't become a nazir. Why do I need a pasuk of ha'oila according to Rabbi Yosy Eglili to tell me that a guy can't become a nazir? Zok Gemara, because if I only had our pasuk, havamina korbon hu d'lo ilaisi, I would have thought that he simply can't bring a korbon. Avol naziris chal alayu, but maybe naziris is chal, it's just that he doesn't bring a korbon. Kamash malon that he doesn't even become a nazir. So the problem that we have over here is, so once I know that he can't even become a nazir, why do I need a pasuk that he can't bring a korbon naziris? We already know that he can't become a nazir. So I didn't see this kasha in Rashi Ksav Yad. I think Tosfos mentions it, but I don't think it's Tosfos over here. So the ArtScroll brought down, or not the ArtScroll, the Mesivta brought down, because I was preparing with the Mesivta, why I need both psukim, and let me see if I could remember it. Let me see if the ArtScroll says, so it'll remind me what I saw. I think it brings it down from a Tosfos, maybe a Nazir. I'm sorry?
Last paragraph on the bottom.
Oh, right. So what is the answer? One solution is, although a guy cannot become a nazir, it may be that could bring the korbon on behalf of a Jewish nazir. Kamashulon, he can't even bring it for a Jewish nazir. That's right. But the problem with that is that they ask that is, we let him bring a shlomim. We learned earlier he could bring a shlomim on behalf of a yid. He could bring an oila. So why can't he bring a korbon nazir either? So that was the difficulty with that. But I'll call upon him. That's our Gemara. So the Gemara, Kaman Azla Ha D'Tanan. We're going to quote a Mishnah, and I'm going to ask you, who is this going like? Amar Rab Shimon, Shiva Dvarim Miskinu Bezdin. There are 7 takanas that Bezdin made. We had this not too long ago. V'zeh echad men. This is one of the takanas that Oived Kechavim Sheshalach Eilosai Mimedinas Hayam. If you remember, this sugya was about, it used to be if someone would find an animal wandering near Yerushalayim, he would bring it to the Beis HaMikdash because it's probably a korbon that somebody lost. The problem is, who pays for the nesachim? So the halacha is the person who finds it has to bring the nesachim for it, which means it's an expense. So guess what? Suddenly people stopped finding stray korbanos. So they realized it's a problem. So they said, okay, we'll make a takana that we'll take the money for the nesachim of those lost and found korbanos from the lishka. So therefore people weren't hesitant anymore to bring in korbanos that they found because it wasn't going to cost them anything. Another takana they made at that time was Ovid Kachavim Sheshalach Eilosai Mimedinas Hayam V'Shilach Imo Nisachel, and he sent money to buy the nesachim as well. Craving Mishalai, we use the guy's money. But Vimlav, but if the guy didn't send money for the nesachim, which are required to accompany the korbon, then craving Mishal Tzibur. Again, you take that from the communal pot. Zog to Gemara. Lema Rabbi Yosy Aglili v'loy Rabbi Akiva. Let's say it's going according to Rabbi Yosy Aglili and not Rabbi Akiva. Why? Because Rabbi Yosy Aglili said that the guy brings all these types of korbanos. The guy said only an oila. Zaktamar afilu tema Rabbi Akiva. Oila v'kol chaverta. When it says you bring an oila, when Rabbi Akiva says everything's treated like an oila, it doesn't just mean only an oila. It means the oila with all of the accessories that are brought with an oila. So of course, according to Rabbi Akiva, there would be nesachim as well by the korbon of a guy. And of course, the guy can't donate nesachim, but as part of his oila, it's going to be brought along. Man tana laha. Well, who's the tana of the next price? The tana Rabbanan. Ezrach. Ezrach may be nesachim, and Ezrach can bring nesachim because this is in the parsha of nesachim. The ein ovid kachavim may be nesachim. Yochol loy tei oila seitun in nesachim. You would have thought if he brings an oila, a guy brings an oila, it doesn't require nesachim, because in reference to nesachim it says Ezrach Talmud loymer kacha. So frag them more money. Loy Rabbi Yosy Aglili, because according to Rabbi Yosy Aglili, a guy could bring nesachim. But loy Rabbi Akiva, because according to Rabbi Akiva, a guy doesn't bring nesachim. Rabbi Yosy Aglili, ha'amar afilu yayin nami a guy can bring. And Rabbi Akiva, ha'amar oila in midach loy. Zok Gemara, I have 2 terutzim. Iba say Rabbi Yosy Aglili. You could say it's going according to Rabbi Yosy Aglili. Iba say Rabbi Akiva, or you could say it's going according to Rabbi Akiva. Iba say Rabbi Yosy Aglili, samei meyahi yayin. What we'll have to do is we'll have to take away from the brisa that says that you could bring a korbon of wine, take that out, and maybe Rabbi Yosy holds you can't bring a guy can't bring the nesachim by itself, which would be in agreement with this brisa. The Baisema Rabbi Akiva oila v'chol chaverta, like we answered a moment ago. When could a guy bring nesachim if it's accompanying his oila? He can't donate a korbon of nesachim as a standalone korbon. Dr. Gemara Beider, Rabbi Shimon Omer, minchas choyte shel kaihanim, you take a kmitza and you then place both the kmitza and the shirayim on the mizbeach. Dr. Gemara Minan immediately the Tanur Rabbanan. It says v'hoysel akayin kamincha. So let's look at this pasuk inside. V'chibur olav akayin al chatos ha'asher chata me'achas me'ela v'nislach loy v'hoysel lakayin kamincha. Zok to Gemara, Zok to Brisa. Shetehei avodosa ksei raboy. V'oisa lakayin kamincha. Shetehei avodosa ksei raboy. That his avodah will be kosher. What does this mean? Zok to Rashi. Avodosa ksei raboy. This is talking about a korbon chayte. Kayin shechata, a kayin who did an aveir, meaning, and he's bringing dalei dal, so he's bringing a mincha. The halach is makriv hu atzmoi minchasoi. He could be makriv the korbon mincha that he brought for his own aveira. V'hachi dashinon v'haisa lakayin kloimar im mishel kayin tehei ksheira loy lahakriv kishar menachos. So that's how we dash in the pasuk v'haisa lakayin kamincha. even if it's v'hoisel a kohen, even if the person bringing this carbon, the chayte, was a kohen, kamincha, treated like every other mincha that the kohen could do the avodah. Gewaltig. Ata oimer sheteh v'dosek sherboy oy einu elo lahater minchas chayte shel kayanim. Maybe it's to be materit lachila. Maybe that's what it's coming to tell us. Uman mekayim v'chol minchas kohen kol tia. The pasuk says elsewhere that every mincha of a kohen is completely burnt on the mizbeach. Lo yisayecho. That's the minchas nedvasai. Maybe that only applies to the minchas nedavar that the kohen brings. Avo chayvasai. But if the kohen has to bring a mincha for a chiyuv, such as the oil of a yared, maybe teheina chelas, that should be eaten. Talmud loimer v'hoisel kohen kamincha, and therefore makish chayvasai lenedvasai. V'hoisel kohen, it'll be like a minchas nedava. Man nedvasa einu nechelas, af chayvasai einu nechelas. Just like if he brings a minchas nedava, it doesn't get eaten, it's all put on the mizbeach, so too a minchas choyte doesn't get eaten. Rab Shimon, v'chinemar v'hoisel l'koyen kimin chasoi. If it says v'hoisel l'koyen kimin chasoi, then you could say that this minchas choyte that a kohen brings is just like a minchas nedava that a kohen brings. But that's not what the pasuk says. V'aloi lo nemar ela kimin cha. Ela, you know what we learn from this? Ela lahakish minchas choyte shel kohanim keminchas choyte shel Yisrael. That's what we're comparing it to. Ma minchas choyte shel Yisrael nikmetzes, af minchas choyte shel kohanim nikmetzes. So Zok Gemara, if you're treating it like the minchas choyte of Yisrael, there's a kmitza, so the shiraim should also be eaten by the kohanim. Ima minchas choyte shel Yisrael nikmetzes v'shiyareh nechalin, af minchas choyte shel kohanim nikmetzes v'shiyareh nechalin. Talmud loimer lakoyin kamincha, lakoyin kamincha, v'loy leishim kamincha. Whatever the koyin's chelik in it will be like a mincha shel Yisrael. Meaning the void of the koyin is the same. He makes the kamitza, but v'loy leishim kamincha. But the part that goes on the mizbeach is not like the mincha of a Yisrael, because the mincha of a Yisrael, the shiraim would not be put on the mizbeach, but the mincha of the koyin, the shiraim are put on the mizbeach, as Rashi says, "V'loy leishim kamincha le'inyan mizbeach ein shavin minchas choyte shel kahanim or minchas choyte shel Yisrael." The mizbeach's chelik is different. The shiyarim minchas choyte shel Yisrael nechalon. The mizbeach gets no part of it, but minchas choyte shel kahanim craven the mizbeach does get the shiraim of the mincha v'koyin. Okay, we'll stop here.